Scott Frost had some interesting, not interesting opening comments. He did answer questions for about 45 minutes, 35 with local media, 10 with national. But he forewent. How was the Robert
chose to
term there? Forego. Thank you, Mac. The opening comments. Honk, do you have any clips on that?
Yeah, here, let's watch it so everyone understands, what we saw or didn't see.
Coach, would you like to begin with an opening statement?
No, let's go to question.
All right, hot day. Let's go. Let's question. Anyone with questions for Coach Frost? Hands up. There's no way that here we go.
Wow. That was awesome. I'm not kidding. I seriously, look, this is the way I look at it. He stunned like everybody in the media right there, and they didn't know what to say. He knew exactly what he was going to be doing the second he got up there. And they just sat there and they were like, oh, wait, we're not going to have anything to pick apart and write about and do some crappy article. Okay, here, write a crappy article on him not saying anything. There you go, guys. Now, what do you want to know about the football team?
Rob, as anybody who goes through media training of any sort, you always want to be able to dictate the conversation, right? And you have an opportunity, whether it's 30 seconds of opening statement or 30 minutes, like PJ Fleck, you take advantage of that to simply frame a viewpoint.
But the
viewpoints
were framed early in the year. They've been framed the entire offseason.
He could have simply said, you know what? I don't have a lot to say today, guys. Glad you got here early. I know we have to get back to get to practice. We're all business this year. Let's open it up for questions.
Because that would have been they would have expressed the exact same niceties to him.
That would have been, and that's how you deal with the media, right? I am shocked that either we do not have a media relations person coaching Scott Frost to do the right thing, or that he ignores it and does something like that. It's stupid because it causes us to have conversations like this that do not need to happen. Literally 20 seconds, 2 or 3 sentences, and we'd not be talking about this. We'd simply be moving on, right? But oh no, he has to stand there and not do anything. It's poor coaching, and it's either Trev Albert's fault for not having someone tell him don't do that, or it's Scott Frost's fault for not actually listening to the professionals that help him. One of the two.
Well, here, I'm going to just show, I guess I don't really, at this point, guys are going to have their narrative or they're going to write what they're going to write anyways. We can see this from a media standpoint in the same day, hours away from each other with the World Herald here. And I'm not here to crap on just these guys. Look, we've had Chattel on. We respect Chattel. This is not an attack on individual people. But, here's Sam McEwen writing that in some ways the process of deciding if Frost can deliver that started on Tuesday. It began with an awkward silence, which, by the way, I was watching live. I wasn't awkward to me, but Tom Chattel on Scott Frost's seeming indifference at Big Ten Media Days and the program's new CEO, Trev Alberts. So that's, Sam McEwen writing that tweet about a quote from Chattel. Now, here's Dave Feit, who we're going to have on in a couple of weeks for one of our fan forums. He goes, I prefer the afternoon version of this column, which is Tom's take. Scott Frost is all business at Big Ten Media Days. And it's a whole different narrative there. So I guess you're right, Dave, in some extent, come out, say something at the beginning, don't, whatever, but you're not going to frame their narratives. Narratives are already going to be framed by the time they're coming there, and they're going to take whatever you say and twist it into whatever they were already going to write to begin with. So, you can say you missed an opportunity, or you can just say, look, it is what it is. But there's a lot of video that we can get to from that media days.
I would tend to lean more towards kind of what Dave says on this. In the grand scheme of things, this isn't a big deal. It's not going to make or break a season, but it kind of comes down to a couple things we've talked about Frost needed to do this year about being that CEO and wanting this team to speak with one voice. Well, if you're going to be the CEO, you're the one who needs to be out there making the statements. You're the one who can set the narrative. he's going to be the one speaking. So, take that opportunity. Like Dave said, even if it's 20 seconds, go ahead and do that. And, one of the things that Frost mentioned during media days is they need to be doing those little things right to kind of get them over the hump. I mean, this is a little thing in the grand scheme of things, but it's just one of many little things. Just get these things right so they're not issues, they're not stories. Media doesn't have to waste any time on it. We don't have to waste time on it. Be done with it. That's, it's those little things they need to just catch on. Now, it's probably something he can hopefully learn to deal with. This is his first year, that CEO type role as a head coach, but it's the kind of thing he has to learn to do. That's just my approach on it. So,
yeah, I kind of land more on Honky's thing. It didn't even really register with me at all. And at the end of the day, there's nothing to be said. Everybody knows and going into his 5th year, we've lost a ton of games. What am I going to say? Oh, we've had a really good offseason. And I know you could say that, and I understand that. I understand what you're saying, Dave, about just take the opportunity to say that little bit. It didn't look defiant to me. It looked like it was more of where are the questions? I mean, he just come from 35 minutes of questions from the reporters in the other room. That's where he had just come from. So he was in question mode. So I don't know what the expectation was, but it didn't seem like a defiant or
that's
misstep.
what
It just
confuses to me, and says he's done this for 5 years. He knows. I mean, it's not like he hasn't done this before, so he probably knows the expectation that you have some sort of opening statement, even if it's really brief. It would have been very simple for him to say, like, what, I don't have a lot to talk about today, guys. Let's open up to questions. All he had to do, he knew that they were expecting an opening statement. That's not on the media. It's literally how the program is set up. Every other coach in the Big 10 had an opening statement. Not just, all you had to do is just acknowledge that that's just kind of standard protocol and go along the norms. It's
in all fairness, though, every other coach
hasn't.
In all fairness, though, every other coach hasn't gone through what he's gone through this offseason. I haven't heard anything about Iowa,
I hear
Minnesota,
you, but I don't know about the other 13
from a national
fan
standpoint.
bases.
Everybody knows everything about Nebraska. We're like everybody's favorite person to pick on. So it comes down to like what more
really
could he possibly say that he hasn't said or hasn't been said already?
Yeah, let's move on, because I mean, if he wanted to not have anybody talk about this, all he would have to do was 30 seconds of simple intro.
Well, the Redcast, we gave our official statement on it yesterday. Hey, Coach Frost, you did fine today, GBR. And that, I don't know, great, bad.
It's a nothing burger.
You're not going to win any football games and lose any football games in media days.
Moving silence like lasagna.
That's probably the main thing. But some of the questions there, I thought this was interesting. It came from 2 different Ohio guys. So we're not knocking Nebraska media here. This is Ohio media.
Not yet.
But 2 questions here, and they're phrased a little differently. The first one was, I thought, phrased poorly, and I thought Frost answered it really well. The second one, I love the way that the guy asked it. So this will be about a minute and a half here of video, but here, watch this one. First one is about us not being competitive.
Hey, Coach Frost. Tino Bovenzi with Spectrum News in Ohio. Looking at you guys' success or lack thereof over the past couple of years, you're not up to the standard where you'd want to be. I think you'd say that yourself. How do you guys get back on track competitively and ultimately get to the Big Ten championship?
Yeah, competitively, I think is the wrong way to put it. We were competitive in every game last year. We had our chances to win. We've made a ton of progress as a program from a talent perspective and a culture perspective. We haven't got it where we want it yet. There's a little piece we still got to put together to make sure we get over the hump, but we're excited to have another chance to do that.
I think that was a really good way of answering that, because we've talked about that ad nauseum over the course of the offseason. It's when we had Sipple on, and Sipple goes, we weren't bad last year. Bad is the wrong word. We were competitive, right? And so when the question is phrased in a way of you're not being competitive, now that was one Ohio guy. Here's another Ohio reporter almost asking kind of the same question, but I like the way that he phrased it here, and I think he got an equally good response from Frost out of it.
Hi, Coach. Steve Helwagen with 24/7 Sports in Columbus. Question I have, 3-9 is the record, but all 9 of the losses by single digits. And you turn 3 of those, it's a bowl season. You turn 6 of those, you win the division. And you're right there in every game. Just what, and not to wallow in the losing or anything like that, but just what is it that can be done just to make that one more play, that one more thing that puts you guys over the top to start turning those close losses into wins? I mean, you're right there with Michigan. You're right there with Ohio State, both those games. Just what is it that's going to be that's going to put it over the top?
Yeah, we had a good enough team last year to do better than we did. that falls on me. It falls on the whole coaching staff. It falls on the whole team. Compliment Ohio State that, they came into Lincoln with a really good football team, and we were right in the game and we didn't win it. And that seemed to happen quite a bit. It'd be easy if it was one thing. It's a little harder because it was a little something different in every game. And more than anything, I think we just need to have a little more of a killer instinct to finish games, and we get in those close games, we need to finish them. Look forward to competing this year. I'm sure we'll be in some more, and we got to find a way to come out on top.
What I like about that, what he said there, was that, it's little tiny things, right? But it was a little tiny something different in each game. And we've talked about this, Dave. I think we did this 6 months ago. We talked about how we might be that far away, but it might be this much, amount of work that it takes to get there. Well, each game it was this, right? So it's this, and then game 2 was that, and game 3 was that, and game 4 was that. And by the time you add up the 9 losses, all times that, we have to get that much better to get over that hump. And I mean that, certainly the number of changes that have been made over the offseason have been geared towards affecting literally every one of those things that have happened in every one of those games. I mean, now it's about, you just got to execute it.
Yeah, that's something I kind of thought about, though, when he made that statement that it's just a little thing, little things that needed to be changed. I mean, we made some very drastic changes in this offseason. We completely, retooled the offensive coaching staff. Special teams had to be retooled for what seems like, the ungodly, amount of time. We brought in a ton of new talents. I mean, was it really just little things that need to be fixed, or was there really a lot that needed to be fixed, and we're kind of hoping it works this offseason? I was thinking about that after he said that, and I'm still not sure where I come down on it. So.
Well, they're little things that stick out like a sore thumb is what they are.
Well, they are, but if it's just a little thing, this is a massive wholesale change from what it was.
And they're also little things that are happening in the same places, right? They're just different, right? It's like springing leaks in your washing and dryer line in 6 different places, as opposed to like a sink upstairs and a sink in the bathroom and whatever. It's like, special teams. And let's be honest, it almost felt like he took a shot at a certain someone there at the end when he said that they needed a killer instinct and couldn't finish the games. I'm not saying any names because, moving on, but it did kind of sound like that was there. I mean, again, if we want to overinterpret things and hear things that we shouldn't be hearing in these press conferences,
could be self-reflective too, Rob.
That it could be. You're right. It could be, but he did say everybody was responsible, and let's just say that certain someone really did have a hard time finishing games at the end. So,
well, and it is little things in each game, right? But cumulatively, especially when they were little things that were different from one game to the next, that's where it adds up over the course of the season into big things. And that does require a lot of changes. You need to, one game your kicker's okay, but the next game you can't hit anything. And one game your punter is kicking it off the side of his foot for 9 yards against Michigan State. So you put the other punter in, he kicks it to the wrong side. And then the next week, the first punter kicks it 84 yards against Northwestern, right? I mean, it's not enough to say, well, our punting sucked. It sucked in that game. And those are the games that hurt us that time. We need more consistency across the board. That's without a doubt.
Every area that cost us last year, we also had really good play sometimes in those areas.
Yeah.
Like every single one.
Yeah, it's why I've defended Martinez so many times, is that the mistakes at the wrong times, but boy, he also got us into really good spots that you needed, right? And so the point is, we just need more consistency out of that quarterback position from start to finish. We need more consistency out of the running back position from start to finish. And Boomer, I think to your original question, that requires making enough changes without starting everything over from scratch. I mean, our defense, as an example, isn't starting over from scratch, and that's probably a good thing right now. We've got a lot of good key components back from a really good defense, and let's hang our hat on that, and the special teams immediately have to be instantaneously, not just okay, not just average. We need to win games because of special teams, and because of how bad they were, that required a lot of changes from coaching to all the every specialist.
Yes.
From the snappers to the kickers to the guys returning the ball, every one of them has changed. And I think Boomer, as a special teams coordinator for the Redcast, you would probably say that was a good move.
Well, yeah, although we've done this about every year, we've tried something new on special teams. Eventually, something's bound to work, right? I mean, the law of averages says eventually something's going to work.
As special teams coordinator, if you take the approach that we took 2 years ago with the analyst, a year ago with the split assistant coach / coordinator, or what we have now with Bush. I mean, just from your professional special teams experience here, I mean, which approach would you most want to take?
Well, I like, as long as you have someone dedicated to it, regardless of what position it is. And I think you also need buy-in, especially from the head coach, and really every position coach needs to buy into special teams. They have to stress how important it is for all their players. If we're putting you on special teams, even if you're normally a safety or cornerback or whatever, it's not just something to get you on the field. It's an important key part of the game. So it stems from everything. I like having a coach that can spend a lot of time on it because we obviously need it. What we have been doing doesn't work. And I do hope that Frost is taking this opportunity as the CEO to spend more time with it and stress the importance of it to the entire team, because it is something that's important. We brought up how Urban Meyer, many times stressed how important it was and played a big role in it, as a head coach, and it worked for them. And I think that's what you should model yourself off here too. So.
Well, for a little while and then go on probation, but I get you.
Well, there's that, but yeah. But they won championships. That's fine. So
hey man, I'll take a little probation if it comes after a championship. Honestly,
yeah, it doesn't matter. I just want free tattoos. So
no, those free tattoos were before him. So
yeah, that was Trestle. Yeah,
jeez, like
sweater vest.
So many violations. So many coaches. I can't keep up with them.
Mm-hmm. But I think one thing that we've talked about a lot all off season, Dave, was the Northwestern game. The importance of the Northwestern game, kicking it off well, getting a good start. Here's Frost on that Northwestern game.
We're excited to go play in Ireland. There's some challenges that go along with that. We've been planning for it for a long time. We're going to try to handle it as well as we can. Our players understand it. It's not a bull trip. We didn't earn it. We're going over there to play a football game, and that's got to be the focus.
I like that approach. We didn't earn it. Dave, I think you were checking today. The tickets are still under $600 from Denver round trip to Ireland. If you could get some tickets and go over there, I mean, what do you want to see? Not a victory, obviously. I mean, that goes without saying. What do you want to see in that first game? What are some of those things that
does it go without saying, Honky? Because the answer to a successful season is winning.
Right? Like what score do you need to see? And is 1-0 good enough? Because I've said that a number of times. I'll take 1-0 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I get to 1-0, but I would just take any sort of victory there. Obviously, I think that the narrative this year is Pat Fitzgerald's team is going to be down again. They're picked to finish last. This is exactly when Northwestern actually surprises everyone and plays better than expected. I don't know anything about the Northwestern roster or the coaching staff, but I expect them probably to be at least slightly better than last year's team. And it's the first game out of the gate in a different location. You just got to go out and win the game, right? No one's going to care after that.
I think I heard that didn't Northwestern has like the least returning production in the entire Big Ten, didn't I?
Well, they had no production last year. So.
Well, that's true.
You can't return anything you don't have, bro.
Oh my God, no, that's funny. But no, but I mean, isn't that it? So I mean, I hear what you're saying, Dave.
But I think that's probably right.
Yeah,
but Dave,
it's due to the COVID situation in the sense that a bunch of players probably would have. Maybe you come back, you're delaying your graduation year, et cetera. But if you're at Northwestern and you're ready to move on with your career and you're not going to play football after college, you're ready to take that, internship at a bank or whatever and start making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right? And
working production for a drama company.
Yeah. Whatever.
Well, Brett Ciancia, Pick Six, who we'll have on next week, his Big 12 or Big 10 West, he has Northwestern 7th there. Dave, when we talked with Dave Bartu, the college football matrix guy, about a month and a half ago, they're extremely down on Northwestern. I mean, like this is a clear win. And part of me, I mean, look, Nebraska needs to cancel all that noise out no matter what. I don't care if we're playing a 12-0 team or an 0-12 team. You're 3-9 coming off of last year. Like there's nobody we don't. If we beat Northwestern, I say then we don't come back and look past North Dakota. You don't look past anybody right now. But like, doesn't it partially kind of scare the hell out of you that they are so poorly looked upon Northwestern right now? I mean, this is clearly the number 7 team, blah 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 in the West. I'm like, oh geez, I wish they were. I wish they were ranked first right now. I honestly do.
The ranking gives me no comfort whatsoever.
None.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, just for fun, Northwestern, according to Bill Connolly, is returning 65% of their production from last year, overall. So, which actually puts them right in the middle for the Big Ten. They're actually higher than us, oddly enough. So, Illinois is bottom though. So there's
there's the.
Do we get to bring the Big 12 production with us though? Like if you added.
Oh, that's true.
You
get to bring Casey and.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's factored in. I'm just curious how they do those stats with the transfer portal. You kind of have to. You probably have to manipulate those a little bit. I don't know.
That's hard. I mean, O'Shawn, you're bringing his defensive stats and sacks and all that, and you're bringing what Casey did. That's tough. But we had kind of talking about some of the media access that we were talking about at the beginning. We had fans that were sitting there saying, "Gosh, I wish we would get more access from practice and more plays." Well, Pat Fitzgerald literally said the same thing. He's like, "I hope." He was asked a question by some Nebraska reporter, and he's like, "I hope you show as much as you want on the internet. You post everything you can, Husker media, because I'd love to watch that too." And the reality is, I mean, he was answering a question about like how do you prepare for a team like Nebraska that has all that change,
right.
and
that's tough for them on their front.
If we come out,
it's nearly impossible to defend.
We need to come out in the odd front. Or the even front, or whatever it is. Whatever they would have.
Both at the same time.
Yeah.
How confusing.
No can defense.
At the same time, we need to shift from a 3 to a 4 and just really screw them up. Well, some of the narrative at least is that, are we on the same page? Is this coach is Whipple and Frost on the same page? Is Frost and Trev, blah, blah, blah. Well, we heard that audio at the very beginning of Trev talking about the team and, what do you say, that a team full of talent is not a team. I wanted to play this short piece from Frost because this sounds almost identical to what Trev said. And maybe that's a good sign, too, that they are at least on the same talking points.
Lockstep.
Casey's one of many transfers we brought in. Really excited about the talent we added to the football team. But talent doesn't win games. We got to become a football team, and part of that's integrating the new players with the old and making sure we're one team playing together.
So, I mean, at the very least, I think that they're in lockstep with that kind of approach there. We brought in a ton of talent. We know that the transfer portal has done things to make the team, work it over. But, I mean, at some point, it's the leadership. How do you get all those guys to work together? And a team full of talent is not a team. So, that's what fall camp is about.
Yeah, that's really the challenge of this whole year. I mean, it's not just the players, it's also that coaching staff. You have so many new figures on that, and how does it all mesh together? And they know it has to work this year. I mean, not only for the coaching staff, but for a lot of the players that are probably, that are probably here for that 1 year and looking to maybe go pro after that. So there's a lot of people that know this year counts, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on everyone to try to make it work. And that'll be one of the big challenges of that CEO role for Frost, to try to make all this mesh in a hurry. So we'll see if it can be done.
Well, I mean, one of the consistent things, though, and that's kind of in some ways like these off-season interviews that we've been doing, like one of the consistent things that I've heard out of all these kids is that, I mean, they could sit there and do the coach speak back and forth, say, oh yeah, we have great chemistry, but they're all talking, they all say it in different ways. Like one of the guys was saying how, guys would show up in the defensive room and all of a sudden, like everyone's just getting along. They're hanging out. They're friends. There's like, everybody seems to know each other. Like they've known each other their whole lives. And hopefully that's true, because that's the sort of chemistry that makes the team play well together, right? And understanding the playbook and the defense, at least that's going to be consistent on that side of the ball because Chins is still there. And the offense, who knows? I mean, yes, Whipple has not historically been successful his first year anywhere he's gone, but hopefully with a combination of what's that?
Going to change this year.
But hopefully awesome. With a combination of consistency with Frost, being one way and Whipple being the other. I'm going to just be positive on it, and hopefully they're on the same page. They do have some talent on both sides of the ball, especially on the offenses they brought in, that, a lot of these guys, it's just football. You know what I mean? And hopefully they can come out there and just play some football, and they can work it out against Northwestern, and then come in and play Oklahoma at 3-0. I mean, to me, that is one thing, Rob. I mean, we've always talked about, this team needing kind of time and a runway to do it. This season, you're never going to get a better runway than this with Hydrox and the two Mulkey brothers to open up. I mean, you've got all the time you need. So if it doesn't work this year, I don't know when it will. So
yeah, no, that's completely fair. And Frost said it prior to last year that, this team needs to get some momentum under its wings and everything. Had every opportunity with a team to start off like with Illinois, and we're not going to rehash all that, but this is that there's no complaints right now about scheduling with that. We need to win some games early. And I don't expect, here's the thing with expectations. I don't know that we shouldn't have any expectation that we're going to come out and be world beaters on offense in game one. I don't.
No.
I expect our defense to play tough-nosed, strong defense and make it hard on Northwestern to score a lot of points. And I do expect that our special teams comes out and performs at a high level from an execution standpoint, meaning that
would be the best indicator
punting,
of success for the rest of the year.
We're punting where you're supposed to punt. You're making extra points. We missed 2 of those in the first game last year. We're fielding every punt that we should field. And if it's going over our head into the end zone, you let it go. I mean, we're playing smart special teams. And if you do that, you're going to win a couple games early in the season just because of playing solid special teams. And as you're working through whatever it is that your offensive transitions and all that you're working through that, but you got to win games along the way. Right now, I mean, Boomer, your runway thing is perfect. I mean, there is a runway here. You got to play close to mistake-free ball. The O-line on the offense is what I'm really watching. I watched the Oklahoma game again from last year, and there's these moments where I walked away so inspired, like, oh my God, we did this well and this well and this well. But I'm also tearing my hair out because after the first drive was done, we had 4 offensive line penalties in the first drive. 8 offensive line penalties by the end of the game. And you're like, okay, yeah, we can't do that again. That's where you make, I don't know if that's a little mistake or a big one, but that was certainly one that warranted, we have a new position coach there now. So.
Honk, is there other media day tweets or videos that you want to talk about?
Let me. I want to show one here from Trev, and we just talked about the staff. Trev brings up the new staff perspective and what those guys bring to the room. So let's listen to that.
Well, I think when you have coaches like Mark and Mickey and some of the other coaches, I mean, you got to understand they're bringing experiences to Nebraska, working for other head coaches or being a head coach himself or even NFL experience or working with different personalities of players that I think really can help Scott. It's just a broadening of your perspective. I think having a coach that's had to create systems and play calling in multiple situations. I mean, every conference is different. What you're going to do in the NFL is likely different than what you're going to do in the ACC. So I think a lot of it is just perspective. And when you sit around a table with different experiences, different perspectives, and different abilities, it has, it's just going to impact you, I think, in a positive way, as long as you're receptive to it. And I think Scott has certainly been receptive to it.
Mac was watching then. The first thing he goes, man, that's a lot of bald guys in the background. So
I thought the
so
same
serious.
thing,
It's like,
Mac. I'm like,
it
wow.
was interesting, yeah.
Like Midnight Oil doing the interview.
They're all PJ Fleck fans.
Yeah, it's a PJ Fleck appreciation conference was there.
Goodness
Yeah,
knows.
so.
Beds are
Terrifying.
burning.
Hey, Coach, how do we sleep while our beds are burning?
How's the world turning?
Dave,
You got to give it back, Rob. That's why.
Dave, we'll start with you. I mean, you've had, I think, very legitimate questions about Whipple and just how quickly will this work, and this needs to work quickly. So, based off of some what you just heard there with Albert's talking about the staff and what they bring, what they offer, but also the challenges of making it work. I mean, what do you think as you hear Trev talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's legit. I mean, I think Whipple has a pretty good track record after year 3 or so. That's just not going to cut it. I think he needs to be good enough this year to be retained, right? And that means, in my opinion, they need to go 6-6, 7-5 to get that. You guys are far more ambitious. I just think they need to go to a bowl game, and Trev wants the staff to stay together. I mean, they're investing too much in allowing Frost to recreate this to kick him to the curb with a bowl season. So even with a light record, I think they just need to get to 6-6. So can Whipple and Frost meld together well enough to get there? And I think with this schedule and the talent they have on the roster, which I think is legitimately good, they probably can get there. I completely agree with you, Honky, that the offensive line, ultimately, we can talk about skill position guys all day long. If the O-line doesn't produce to the level that you need to do in the Big Ten, that's going to be the problem. So we're going to see.
Yeah, and if there is a point of, we talked about silence earlier, but Trev using silence, he was asked that question about the wins and how many wins, and he's like, I'm not going there. I'm not going to give you that we need to win 6 or he's not going to get himself backed into that kind of corner. But it was, I think essentially we all know what we need to see. And so, and that can be different things. Rob will be disappointed with that 10-2 season because we're going to go 15-0. I get it. Dave, you want 6-6 and everything. The point is, at the end of the day, we still all need to see the same things. In fact, Mac and I were talking before this, we're going to watch the Northwestern game together. And we already know at halftime what we want to see, whether we're up or down. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with Illinois last year when we were at halftime. We're like, everything we wanted to see, we didn't. It didn't matter what the score was. It didn't matter if we could come back and win. It was like, how did we not do? How are we doing these things sloppily? We need to stop saying sloppy football. And so that's me, just
Amen.
Beating the dead horse over and over again. I think that pretty much takes care of media days, at least from what we had here. Is there any questions right now from any of the Redcasters that we want to do before we get into the next parts?
There haven't been a whole lot of questions tonight. A lot of them have been statements, mostly just kind of supporting the Frost approach on the press conference. That he was in a hurry, had a plane to catch, which is true. Plenty of time to talk. The season goes on.
I like that, Marcus.
You could have said that. Hey guys, I got a plane to catch.
Yeah,
Let's
that would have
open
been
up
a
questions.
I agree.
Boom.
I don't applaud Frost for not saying anything. The media is going to take something and run with it. Don't feed him. Well, I mean, they're going to take him not saying anything and running with it too. So just control the narrative when you can. But then others, it's like if Frost is winning, his media outings wouldn't be talking about, and that is true. So, I mean, winning solves a whole lot of problems, and
I think you could argue that he did control the narrative. He gave some little no comment whatsoever, and that is the lead story. So that's like I said before, it's like a nothing burger. So he didn't give me anything. Well, some of the best practices we've ever done. Teams really hungry.
Mac,
the best chemistry we've ever had.
You, Mac. I agree. He didn't need to. He shouldn't have said that. Great offseason, but he didn't need to say that. I totally agree with you. When I was listening to Trev in that interview clip that Honky only thing I was thinking about. I never even thought about the question that Honky asked me. I just winged that. All I was thinking about was like, would we have expected Trev to stand up in the middle of that press conference and not say anything?
Yeah,
no,
but
you wouldn't have. You would have expected Trev to say something, right? But
they're different. They're different for sure.
But I mean, a head coach has to be a media guy, don't they?
No,
not at all. And I think
is there a head coach that is not?
Is Nick Saban a media guy?
The coaches have to.
You would have an opening statement.
Yeah, he had an opening statement. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, because they're very good. I would have an opening statement too if I was Alabama. Hey, so we had another awesome recruiting class. NIL's going great.
I bet he had it when he went 6-6 too.
Things are going super well here.
Just the way it works.
I have no problems. I would too.
I mean, okay, and I've been trying to say this too, is that Benning said something too, and it was interesting. And normally, like, I haven't been agreeing with everything that he's been saying in the mornings, and I have been trying to listen to it, just kind of get a feel for what some other people are out there thinking. And he's a former player, and he's like, I've known Scott now for like 30 plus years. And he's like, what he did yesterday is exactly what I would have expected of him from day one. He's always seemed like he's kind of been forced up there with these, pre-speeches, and everyone just picks him apart. This year, he did exactly what I expected of him. And Mac, you listen to that show, so that's kind of what he said, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like, and he's like, this is exactly how I expected, would have expected him to be acting for the last 5 years if he could. So it's almost like, and he's like, he just wants to be coaching football. He doesn't want to be standing up there talking about all this. He wants to put the results on the field. Well, sure, but nobody's buying stock. So it's not like he has to give a report. All right. Especially not you, Dave.
It's all going to be it's all going to be answered come Ireland and come season. I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to be
Northwestern. Skippy. Nobody talks about it. We lose Northwestern. Still nobody talks about it. We're just going to fire him. So it's like,
if they lose to Northwestern, I do hope they fire him. So
yeah, I'm sure some of the local whiskey distilleries are hiring, so he'll be fine. Yeah.